Qual o significado do público para o cinema?
Sem o público não tem sentido. O público é o complemento de tudo.
Que é muito rico contar uma história para pessoas tão diferentes e que vão receber de forma também muito diferente.
O medo, a emoção, a gargalhada, isso é cinema. Isso é o público quem dá.
Nós, artistas, fazemos tudo com esse intuito, de conseguir com que o público vá além de si mesmo.
Não há nada como vocês.
É para você que as histórias são criadas. É por você que o cinema existe. Nossa homenagem a quem mais inspira o cinema, o público.
ou, entrou e está em posição de identificar.
Is only here today thanks to MediaXchange guys training exchange program, which is amazing. Myself as a writer, working as a writer, I would say one of my best professional experiences ever for enhancing and perfecting my craft. You go to Los Angeles and you stay a week in Los Angeles. They take you to meet all types of writers from all types of series you can imagine. At the time, for example, I went to writers' room where we had the Empire guys and they work normally and said, go to work, come here and let's change some ideas. And I participated in their day-to-day routine as if it were a regular day. And I had the opportunity to ask for Dome to also, I asked to stay a morning with Michael Green and Brad Phillip. So it was amazing. One of the best experiences, work experiences, training experiences I ever had in my life. I'm going to change in English, please. I would like to, in advance, apologize for all the mistakes I'm going to make in English. It's not my native language, but anyways, I would still like to speak in English. And so I'm going to change. I have now my talk in English.
Yeah, so with no more delays, my dear Katrina Wood and Francis Foster.
So, good evening to everybody. Thank you, Gustavo, for that introduction. It would be difficult for me to live up to all of that, but I appreciate it, and very glad to be involved with BrLab and your team. Thank you. We are a company. MediaXchange is a UK company with offices in London and Los Angeles. So we are delighted to be with you this evening. My name's Katrina Wood. I'm the founder and CEO of MediaXchange. I started the company with 2 points in mind that remain important today, actually. This is a global industry and there's a necessity to understand foreign markets. The fact is that it is a people business and you need to have access to those people by meeting them in their own environment. The globalization of the industry, which is now very tangible, is where MediaXchange has been aiming through the history of the company. The essence of the MediaXchange experience is to meet the professionals individually
by meeting them in their
or
own
in small
environment.
groups, which was
The globalization of the
built
industry, which
a
is
wonderful,
now very
friendly
tangible,
environment
is where
within which
MediaXchange
we
has been
work.
aiming through the history of the company. The essence of the MediaXchange
Katrina, I think you need to change your channel to English. Are you in English?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we're having some kind of audio feedback there. But anyway,
Just keep going.
Yeah, it
Stop
keeps
or
going.
keep going.
You know, you're amazing, wonderful. Please keep.
Okay, back again. We're continuing now, everybody. The essence of the MediaXchange experience is meeting other professionals individually or in small groups, which has built a wonderful, friendly environment within which we all work. With COVID, we cannot meet directly at the moment, so we have had to move online to deliver the same combination of information and connection listed on the website that we have under online programs. As a focus, we largely are with drama. We do include film, and now we are branching out into the games arena with a strand of the sort of crossover of the traditional TV and games narrative. The core of the company is a mixture of consultancy and training, and our clients are TV channels, industry agencies, and production companies, including writers, producers, and executives. Our services provide both creative and business perspectives, building skills and access to the resources needed to realize your ambitions. We have a big anniversary next year. In 2021, we will be 30. And the alumni accumulated over those years provides a global network on which we draw for our training and clients. So we hope you'll join us in 2021. You can find us on www.mediaexchange.com. And I'd like now to introduce you to Francis Foster, our Head of Creative Services. Francis.
Hi, thank you, Katrina. Hello, everyone. Just to echo Katrina's point, delighted to be here and thank you to Gustavo and the team for making it happen. I have a short presentation to share with you about MediaXchange's core services. So, what is it that we do? In simple terms, we help our clients create art drama, and we have done for 30 years. And that's not me personally for 30 years, but the company has been. So how do we do that? Well, we understand the creative process and the value chain and the connection between those things. As the script writers in this audience will know, a successful script requires a setup in the first act, and the rest of the script to follow that idea that culminates in a conclusion, and everything being connected. Similarly, a successful show requires key skills and competencies throughout the process, coming from multiple disciplines that culminate the creative and commercial success. So how do we do that? The first step is training. As Katrina mentioned, we have moved a lot of our training online this year. We train in script writing, obviously a cornerstone of the industry, script editing for producers and development executives to work effectively with writers, creative leadership, the likes of Mark Goffman and others from around the world who lead successful creative endeavors, and business affairs. With the shifting landscape of distribution and commissioning, we help our clients navigate and leverage the maximum value for their projects. So a key component of what we do, as Katrina mentioned, is the exposure and the in-person networking. So our Los Angeles office provides essentially a base for those experiences. So that includes the Showrunner Exchange, which Gustavo mentioned being an alumni member of, and Katrina will touch on in a moment. The Connect Hollywood Exchange. This is for those who wish to sell projects and collaborate with the US industry. This is a week-long tailored pitching experience, which we put together for our clients, and we've run for the last 4 years or so. And finally, the Soap Runner Exchange, or the long-running series exchange. So this is for those who are producing 100 to 150 episodes of a show per year, which obviously requires a very specific set of principles and structures to run effectively. We also provide consultancy. So a typical MediaXchange client would be a production company who aspire to produce drama internationally for the international market. And we help our clients throughout the development process. So whether that be IP assessment, finding the right creative talent for the project, working with that creative talent and the production company on the script development, producing marketing materials, so treatments, pitch books, finding the right partners. So that typically revolves around market schedules, going to the likes of MIPCOM in Cannes or Series Mania in Lille with a production company and setting up a series of meetings with those that we believe to be the right partner for that project. Pitch support. Obviously, pitching is a difficult thing to do, particularly if it's in your second language. So we support the process throughout, whether that be in preparation or during. And deal structure. Once you have an interested party, how do you structure that deal for the best outcome for you and your project? So, we work with our clients on a fee basis, but here are some countries that we work with regularly. So we have production companies in all of those countries who join us in events around the world. So if you have any more have any questions, or you'd like to contact us about our services, please do get in contact. London at MediaXchange.com. That's our London office where Katrina and I are based from. And obviously, for more information, the website www.MediaXchange.com. I'm going to hand back to Katrina now to talk about the Showrunner Exchange and wish you the best of session.
Thank you, Francis. And we were asked to share with you particularly the program that we have run now for 22 years, the Showrunner Drama Exchange, which we run in Los Angeles twice a year. This unique week spent with the top showrunners in Los Angeles, reviewing US creative principles and their application to the development and sustainability of shows. One of our longtime contributors is Mark Goffman. He's hosted participants at his shows, led workshops for us in Los Angeles and most recently in Singapore, and he'll be with us in a few minutes. The week that we spend in Los Angeles consists of a variety of roundtable discussions, both creative and management themes, as well as individual meetings in groups of 4 with the showrunners and their creative teams. And here I want to highlight the importance of the group itself as an experience. Our showrunner groups continue to reflect a really interesting cross-section of countries across the globe, which provides a further interesting layer to the week where you can compare experiences and working practices with your colleagues from around the world and what is useful to take home with you to apply. We are very lucky we've had several participants from Brazil. Over the years, we've had the good fortune to have Patricia and Rodrigo joining us to share their experience of the Showrunner Exchange and what they found in Hollywood that has influenced their process. So I will say goodbye and you will watch the videos, and after that, Rodrigo will bring up Mark. So thank you for listening, and I hope you will join us.
I had the chance of participating in the MediaXchange program in 2018. I still remember many things. It was really worth it. It's a very rich exchange. They give you access to being close to showrunners, executives, to talk to them, to understand the market. Of course, I was very interested in the writers' room, how they divide their works, what I could use here, what I couldn't use or apply, compare. There are many things we can use, many we can't, but anyways, understand the difference between the cultures and try to understand what you can absorb from a culture that is already very mature. We haven't produced so much ever, but there are so many platforms that need so many programs, and their discussions are very ripe while we're still beginning to create our system. They're already discussing, on the other hand, when the bubble's going to burst and trying to find the identities of each channel, each medium. That's great. It's very enriching experience, and it's an open talk because you're talking to the showrunner you admire, that is very respected in the world, and you can ask what you want, say what you want. You will, through this, have great information, absorb great information that will help you a lot and reach you a lot, and I would love to do it again if possible.
I'm Patricia Pedrosa, and I work as a showrunner in Brazil. I've been to the showrunners program 4 years ago, and it was such an incredible experience. There was a whole week with a bunch of information around the ins and outs of the studio's executive world and writers' rooms. The opportunity gave me new tools for organizing and creating narratives and running shows, and I've been able to apply many of these ideas and techniques to my current projects. I've also made friends from all over the world that I keep in touch to this day, and I got the pleasure of showing my partners how the Brazilian system works. So it was all about exchanging experiences and improving our ways of thinking and managing projects. I highly recommend all the Media Exchange programs to anyone looking for a memorable experience and ways to deepen their understanding of the industry.
Estou de volta? Estou de volta? Não sei se eu estou de volta. Estou aqui.
Am I back?
I'm back.
I think I'm back.
Só para quem não conhece, esses aí são Patricia Pedrosa.
These are Patricia Pedrosa.
Patricia Pedrosa.
This is Patricia Pedrosa. She is a great showrunner here in Brazil. She participated in the Media Exchange. Rodrigo Salomão was an incredible writer. He wrote Ilha de Ferro, Grande Família, and Lucas Paradiso. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to send here the video, but anyways, I will now speak in
thank you very, very
English
much.
Again.
Katrina and Francis, that was an amazing presentation. I hope people have the same experience, amazing experience I had there on Media Exchange. It was, I'm not joking, one of the best times of my life. So with no ado, right now, the main attraction, and the one that everyone is waiting for since morning, since the beginning of everything, my dear friend, the amazing, the guy, he has done West Wing, Studio 60, Bow, Sleep Hollow, and White Collar, so many shows, and lately he has been doing the Umbrella Academy for 2 seasons. My dear friend, the great Mark Goffman, please.
Thank you. I also want to thank the Media Exchange. I know for us too, in the US, it's an incredible, great exchange of ideas and cultural exchange when showrunners and producers and directors and production companies come to the US, and we get to hear how things are done in different countries, as well as sharing how we do things here. And so it's all around a fantastic experience, and why I've been such a big advocate and supporter of everything that the Media Exchange does.
Oh yeah, and I have to thank you guys, because when I went there, you received me so well. People, I wasn't with you, but I was with so many great guys there. I wish I had met you the time I went, but I hope in the next one we can.
Next time.
in person. Yeah. Thanks so much for sparing your some time of your busy schedule. I know we have a new show. We have many things we're gonna talk about today. Welcome to Brazil.
Thank you.
It's your first time here.
Yeah, I want to come in person. I want to be there. So I'm hoping for better days ahead when we can travel.
Yeah, I hope so. And when our two presidents can talk between them, because right now they're in a fight, a personal fight. So it's not a safe place to come. But I hope soon you can visit us. I promise you to take around Rio and São Paulo and all the other beautiful places here in the country. Congratulations! According to Nielsen, the Umbrella Academy is on top of Netflix ratings for almost entire second semester. With there's this new measure that I'm not using. You had an audience of 3,011 million minutes watched. I can even figure out how
amazing.
And that number is a number I can. And then on Rotten Tomatoes, you got a 90% fresh. So it's you can say more than those two statistics. Does Netflix give you like a feedback about those ratings, and or do you learn from the trades? Like, because sometimes I learn from the trades about my shows.
Yeah, it's interesting. After the first season aired, they say they can pretty much tell a lot about the show within a month. They have so many ways of measuring and all these algorithms working that they know exactly what the kind of audience is, how to expand it, who's really interested, how many minutes people are watching, what episodes they turn off at. And then they did give feedback for the second season based on our first season of, we actually wanted to expand the audience. So, they said, well, then, these are some certain things you guys want to do, picking up the pacing in certain places, focusing on certain characters a little bit more. And that allowed us to really kind of hone the second season. And it's an interesting show because unlike a lot of broadcast shows, we really kind of every year take on something entirely new and want to give the audience a wholly new experience based with these characters and the tone of the show. And I'm really proud of sort of the second season, and they just got their third season renewed yesterday.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
We'll start production in February, which is exciting.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
We'll talk a little bit more about Umbrella Academy. I think I have many questions about Umbrella. But can I go back in time? And I like to introduce the people I'm interviewing and have them say about themselves so we can understand the inspirations to be a writer. So when the little Mark decided that when he found out he wanted to be a writer, when he had this snap and said, "Oh my goodness, I want to write to survive. This is what I want to do for my entire life." Right.
I didn't know that I wanted to do it for my entire life. I always loved writing. It's funny. My grandparents, my grandmother in particular, actually would keep these little poems that I wrote and little stories that I wrote when I was 6 years old, and she gave them to me when she was in her 80s, and I didn't even know she had them still. And so I always loved writing, but I grew up in Houston, Texas, and didn't know anybody in the entertainment industry, didn't really understand that writers created the shows. I just enjoyed watching television and movies. And, I thought I was supposed to do something a little more serious with my life. So after I graduated college, I moved to Europe. I worked in Brussels, Belgium for a while, and I wrote for a magazine, very boring magazine called Commerce in Belgium, which I don't know if anyone listening has a subscription to, but I did that. And then I went to the Harvard Kennedy School of Government and got a master's in public policy. And I thought I sort of found a way of weaving what I love doing, writing with public policy and politics, and I wanted to be a speechwriter. And so I sort of pursued that, and I was always writing fiction on the side and short stories. And then just kind of by fate, this was in 2002, I was offered a job writing for the State Department as a speechwriter. And the same week I got offered a job writing on the fictional show, The West Wing. And this was, the run up to the Iraq War. And I just kind of felt like I could be more honest and truthful as a writer and to the country writing for the fictional show than I could for the actual administration. So I took the job writing with Aaron Sorkin and had a blast and kind of never looked back since. So that was how I was able to merge the two.
And how amazing to start a career with Aaron Sorkin. My goodness, I can't even think about, but I can even say it's luck because he found you because you were pretty good by then. I bet. I
was very lucky in that they were looking for people with political experience to work on the TV show. And since I had worked abroad and I had done a couple of things with NATO and the Harvard Kennedy School in the State Department, so I had an experience that they wanted on the show. And I feel like there's like three ways to really get into writing in the US. One is kind of the apprenticeship way, where you start as a writer's assistant and then work on a show for a while and get promoted up to writers. And there's a very strong apprentice system. The other is kind of what I did, which is you have a technical expertise and that gets you in the door. And so I happen to know a little bit about politics and foreign policy, and I could write that stuff. And I was very valuable. I think I was valuable to the show and to Aaron in doing that my first season there. And that kind of, there was an incredible learning experience for me. And so I was able to get in. And then the third is, the way people like Aaron Sorkin and other great filmmakers do is they just write something that's so incredible, like A Few Good Men, which was his first thing, that, that launches your career. And those are kind of the three most typical ways that people can enter into show business or enter into writing in Hollywood.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know, because people from abroad, they really want to learn, and they really don't really know the ways you're giving, and this is very, very insightful. But I'm really curious because I love Aaron Sorkin. Can you tell us a little about his approach to work? What was his methodology on West Wing? How you guys worked there?
Sure. I mean, and I'll say if you've seen the movie Amadeus. Classic movie. I very much always felt like I was Salieri working with Amadeus, with Mozart. He's brilliant. He is truly brilliant. But he has a musical theater background, loves musical theater. So he hears the dialogue with musicality and with a lyricism and a poetry that's just brilliant. And often we'll talk about an episode in terms of movements of a symphony and crescendoing at certain points. And so I really took that to heart. And my first year there also not just was in education in television writing, but it was in musical theater and in theater in general, because he also comes from playwriting background, which has a much stronger dialogue emphasis in filmmaking generally, which is a much more visual medium. But Aaron his dialogue is so strong and his scene work is so good coming out of playwriting that he writes very quick dialogue, and there's a pace that you hear to his characters that I think gives it an energy and enthusiasm that you don't find anywhere else. And I mean, I can talk about his approach to character, his approach to story in general, but that's just sort of like big picture. Just when you're when you first start working with him, those were the first things I noticed.
Yeah, well, I would advise to everyone to watch his masterclass on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's only, I think, $13 maybe, and it's 8 hours long. So you go to sleep listening to Aaron Sorkin. It's amazing. It's amazing. He talks. It's a real masterclass. But then again, it was not only because of your technical background, because after that, he invited you back for the Studio 60 on Sunset Street, and now to run the writer's room. And I love, it's one of my favorite shows, Studio 60, because it's like the life of the backstage life, the people that are working backstage, and me myself, I've been working on backstage with writers and writing and producing for the last 30 years. So for the first time, I could see myself and picture myself on TV. And then how was different? How was the difference for you now from a regular in the West Wing? You're like a regular writer. Now you're like running the writers' room in an amazing show, very expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's a very different, running the writer's room, going from being a writer in the writer's room to running the writer's room is a very different experience. On the West Wing, we had 10 writers, and working with Aaron is very much, it's a collaboration where you kind of pitch him a story, and each other writer in the room pitches him a story. And if he likes your storyline, then you work with him very closely on that, first sort of beating it out into acts, and then writing some scene work. And then he takes some of it, none of it, all of it, whatever he feels is useful, and then combines it with the other stories that he's working on with other writers, and then weaves together sort of act per act. And so it's a style that I got used to because it was, my first real show and experience. So I got into a good rhythm with him on that and was able to help adopt that to when we went to Studio 60 and help get the other writers familiar with working with him that way.
Okay, yeah. I really wish that we have like a feature film to close all the arc for the Studio 60. Maybe I don't know if it was a NBC production. Maybe they could.
It was NBC, and it's amazing because we did 22 episodes, which in the streaming world would be 2.5 seasons. But in the network world, that was one season, and it's part of both the excitement of doing broadcast television, but one of the biggest challenges is we are constantly, on this treadmill of churning out material. Whereas like Umbrella Academy, we had 18 months to do 10 episodes, and Studio 60 was 9 months to do 22.
My goodness, yeah, it's like here in Brazil, so it's a bread factory. We're doing bread like every day, and people sometimes doesn't even notice that we're doing different kinds of bread because they just need bread and bread and bread.
Yeah.
And then after Studio 60, you had short passages on Law and Order, SVU, Elementary, The Beast with the late Patrick Swayze, and then you found another home on White Collar. And I have this because this event here is supported by ABRA, and ABRA is kind of the analog for the Writers Guild. So I like to understand how do you know where to find work, and if you're going to stay there at specific position between jobs like this. Does the Writers Guild help you in any kind of sense? How the Writers Guild works with you guys there?
Well, the Writers Guild doesn't necessarily, now actually they do help find work. The Writers Guild in the US has a whole platform that they launched about 1.5 years ago, ever since we've had this dispute with the agencies. And so now they have a platform that advertises, keeps a log of everything that's available, both in terms of creating shows and intellectual property that producers are looking to develop, as well as shows on staff. And there are some people who really like to just create and work on their own projects. And then there's some people who are looking for more, of a job that they can have and stay on a show for multiple years. Now it's becoming a little bit more challenging in the new environment, just because, except for the broadcast world, in the streaming environment, for even like Umbrella Academy, for example, there's a good 6 months, sometimes 8-9 months in between seasons. So for a writer, you have to find something to do between then. And that means that, depending on the timing, you may or may not be available when the next season comes along to start working in the writer's room again. So that's a challenge. But going back to those days, and this is something I still do, but I try to find one project every year that's outside of my wheelhouse that I feel like is a real challenge for me creatively. That's something I'm going to take on. And so even when I was on the West Wing, like I wrote a play, one year that was sort of my extracurricular that year. I wrote a novel one year. I did a documentary. It's on Amazon Prime, called Dumbstruck.
Yeah. I will look for it.
The most interesting thing about it now, I mean, I'm very proud of it, but Elon Musk is one of the executive producers.
Oh my goodness!
So I'm very proud of that, to bring him in. He's famous for Tesla, SpaceX, and
you deserve a Tesla and a trip to the moon.
But again, I did it because I just wanted to, creatively try something really different. And so I directed this documentary about ventriloquists that really taught me a lot, both about directing and how characters, especially in a documentary, where, I thought when I started this film, I knew exactly who each of these characters were, how they were going to behave, and what the end of their story would be, and that I would just be capturing it. And then as you start to shoot a documentary, people don't behave like you always think they do. And the story doesn't always go in the direction that as a writer I would have written it. And some of it was like, I can't believe what's happening, And so it really started to stretch me as a writer, not to always be fixed on what's that first idea that you have for a character, but to think much more broadly. And then as a director, even doing a documentary, learning a lot about transitions in between scenes and, the flow of a film and the pacing, all of those things that I had a vague notion of as a writer, but until you actually sit in the edit bay and you've directed the scene and you start to put it together, do you really understand how that works? And I think it really helped with my writing.
Oh yeah. It's really important, and for me, it's even important when it's not very common here in Brazil. But I really, I think it's worth for the writers go to the set sometimes and watch when they're shooting their episodes. I think it's really useful for the writers because you can really understand all the process in the studio, like. When you write an explosion and that should destroy all the entire block, you don't know all the hard work that all the damage you're doing on one phrase. So I really go from when I have my writers with me, I said, please, let's go to the set. Let's watch what you wrote and see all the hard work that you're giving to our crew and how is important what. How you're careful every word.
Yeah, it teaches you to be very specific about every word that you put on the page, because someone has to shoot that. And if you write Rome burns, what does that look like? And so it's really helpful. It's interesting too that in broadcast television, because you do 22 episodes a season, and because you have that continuity of shooting while you're also writing, you get to have the writers go to the sets and often produce your own episodes. That was something that John Wells, who took over the West Wing after Aaron Sorkin left, he's another really terrific, showrunner, producer, who created ER and Shameless and a number of amazing shows. But he really has a commitment through the Writers Guild even to a showrunner training program that he helped create. And every writer who works with him, he makes sure they are involved in casting and in production design and going to the set and sitting in the edit bay and learning, being trained and groomed how to be a showrunner, because it is so much more than just, getting something on the page. You have a crew of 200 or 300 other people who you're going to be working with, who are going to help bring, all of those ideas to life.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I want to, after you just said, I want Jonas to visit here in Abra and tell us about this program there. I want to do it. I want to go to the Writers Guild only to do that showrunner program.
The Writers Guild. I mean, I'm sure there's a way we can connect you guys with the Writers Guild. They have a program in place called the Showrunner Training Program. So that's something.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Your guild.
Amazing. And from White Collar, you were chosen to showrun Sleep Hollow. Another success. Congratulations.
White Collar was that was a fantastic show. I loved working. It was really fun. It was one of those rare shows where the writers' room was extremely stable. We had almost the same writers from season 1 through season 6. And the same thing with the cast in New York. They were all just fantastic people. Everybody got along really well. And so that really stable environment allowed me to learn and grow a lot as a writer on the show.
Yeah, it was your first experience with genre, wasn't it?
White Collar was
con
artist.
No. I was talking about
Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah.
I was. So what happened? It's really funny. After White Collar, I wrote. The reason I left is because I wrote a pilot that ended up getting picked up by NBC, and so I went to shoot this pilot. It was called Victor, with John Stamos starred in it.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that, I had to leave the show. And I really wanted to do a genre show after that. I just, I always loved the Marvel movies, and I really wanted to do something in the genre world. And people kept telling me I had no experience doing genre. And I came out of, you should do another political show. And I'm like, well, I did that already. I want to do something new. And I had this love for genre, but I didn't have a writing sample or the experience of working on one. However, because of that, the year before, I pitched a show to the producers of Sleepy Hollow that was a show about an alien. And they told me, they said, we really like your pitch, but we already have a show that's too similar that we just sold to Fox called Sleepy Hollow. And it explored a lot of the same themes and had too many similarities. So they didn't want to move forward with the show that I pitched them. And then it just so happened that 9 months later, they needed a showrunner for Sleepy Hollow. And this pilot that I wrote, Victor, wound up not getting on the air on NBC. And so they asked me if I wanted to do it. And because I had at least pitched them a genre show, they knew that I had a real interest and a grasp of the material. So I got the job for Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah. And did you ever wanted to write? It was because of Marvel and all your love for fantastic things. Okay. I was doing another question. Well, okay, let me follow my script here. Then you, sorry, it's my first time in English, so
it's amazing. Way better than my Portuguese.
Thank you very much. I can teach you some words like caipirinha and bossa nova and stuff. But then again, you had to another. This was a home run, a Bull on CBS with a ratings darling, a show produced by Amblin and Steven Spielberg, the god himself. That's the reason I work entertainment is because of Steven Spielberg. I'm a kid from the 70s and the 80s, so he's my idol. And it was a really popular show. And does the popularity of the show affect the writing in any kind of sense? And did Steven Spielberg have any input in development of that show there?
Yes. I'll start with, before a show comes out, you have no idea whether it's going to be popular or not. The only indication that we had was that CBS told us that this was the show that they were putting a lot of marketing behind, that they were most excited. They usually, most networks they have an inkling, or they pick one or two shows every season that are going to be the show that they really put their emphasis behind. And so we knew there was a big publicity campaign. I was looking for, I have a little here, one sec.
Okay, go for it. You can see his Billy Wilder book
they
there.
Start making little trinkets to give you.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's nice. They even chose like the Chicago Bull.
And this, bull button. And so when they start coming out with all those things, they're putting some marketing dollars behind the show. And we knew Michael Weatherly was fantastic. And so we had an inkling that it would do well. But, when it premiered and it was, it was in, I think, total audience, one of the highest rated shows for the entire year, new shows of the year. I mean, it's certainly something that we're really proud of. We're glad people responded. Yeah. I really liked, I mean, for me, what I loved about it was that it was a show that dealt with the science of trials and juries. And I had never seen anything before that really looked at the American judicial system and said, who are these people who decide the fate of people who are accused of a crime? And what does that system really look like? And, I'm not sure if you know this, the show was based on Dr. Phil.
Yeah, I heard.
I don't know how known he is in Brazil, but this was his previous life before he was doing a talk show. He was a trial scientist or a behavioralist, and was first started as a expert witness. And the case that I think really brought him into this world of television was when he worked with Oprah Winfrey, and she was being sued by the beef industry. And it was hundreds of millions of dollars because she had said on the air something about, mad cow and people should not eat beef. And so in West Texas, she was being sued, and it was a very serious case. And my understanding is, she was not doing well in the case. She was in West Texas, where almost everyone on the jury was related to somebody in the beef industry, in the cattle industry. They were just not pleased, and their livelihood depended on this. And Dr. Phil came in as a sort of consultant, trial consultant, and talked about how that when you have a jury, you have to appeal to them not on science, which is what her other experts kept trying to do, is prove her case scientifically, but say, you know what, you can be right or wrong, but in America, you have a right to freedom of speech. And that freedom of speech argument resonated with the jury. And suddenly people started to see her point of view, and she ended up winning the case. And, Dr. Phil had hundreds of examples of cases like that, where he showed how he was able to, talk to a jury and how you appeal to people. And I thought that was really fascinating. So that's what I thought made the show novel and interesting and relevant. But then the fact that it was being done with Amblin and Steven Spielberg just, was a dream. And I can remember fairly early on, I was going to meet with Steven and Amblin at, on the Universal lot. And they said, look, you're probably only going to get about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes. He's really busy. He's got these certain things going on. So we prepared for weeks for this meeting, of the first few episodes. He's like, you might just get to the first two. We wound up having a 2-hour meeting where I basically pitched him most of the first 12 episodes or six episodes plus. And he was so engaged and gave incredible feedback. And I mean, it was a highlight of my career. It was one of the most memorable days of my life. It was just incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine. He's such an idol for me. Oh my goodness. I will meet him. I will meet him yet. And then let's get to the Umbrella Academy, because we just have another 30 minutes. So another hit in your long career. and I am a comic book fan. I'm a comic book guy, and I have already read the paperbacks back then.
Oh, great!
Yeah, mainly because of Gabriel Ba, that's Brazilian.
Yeah. Congrats! Thanks to you guys, we have the show.
Yeah. And then I'm a big fan of him. If people haven't read Day Tripper, they should. It's a classic. His graphic novel is one of the best comic book novels ever. And then I read the paperbacks and I was like, my goodness, they are going to do that a show. How it's possible? Such an exquisite material of this really edgy and really strange, like very David Lynch stuff. And my question is, how do you adapt such an unique comic book like to live action, and how do you know what you're gonna use, how you're not gonna use, what you need to adapt, what you need to reshape, how you do that?
Wow. Well, it takes a long time, and many efforts, and I think that's something that's not always appreciated. Is just there's a little bit of alchemy involved in this, as well as finally finding the right timing and creative vision, and writers, actors, directors to come together. Gerard, came up with this idea back in 2006, 2007. It was first published. And Dark Horse, first developed it, I believe, as a movie with Universal. And it was kicking around for a while, and everyone knew it was special. Everyone knew there was something incredible there. But it took a while to kind of find its place until you have Netflix come along. That's this, very bold, streaming entertainment company, willing to, take on something like Netflix or take on something like Umbrella Academy, because it is, like you said, there, it's offbeat. It's it's a wild concept and a crazy, amalgamation of a number of, like, it's genre, but it's really about this family. They all have daddy issues. It's siblings who can't get out of their own way. They have superpowers, but they don't necessarily like them, but they're going to have to save the world anyway. All of these elements kind of swirling around. We were very fortunate that Steve Blackman, came in and just saw a way to make this material come to life, from the graphic novel to a series. And he wrote the pilot that just blew everybody away, and ultimately got Ellen Page and then found the right directors. And he added, I think the incorporation of music that he does, that both, for scene work, like when in the pilot, when they sing, I Think You're Alone Now, to, using certain kinds of pop music to counteract or counterbalance, a fight sequence or a crazy action sequence, really like adds character to the show and made it something that, we'd never seen before. And that's what I think makes it so fresh and exciting.
Yeah, really excited. I love the first season, and I love the second season also. I'm anxious for the third one. By the way, what's the Sparrow Corporation? The Sparrow.
You will see soon enough.
The Sparrow Academy. And what the hell is Professor Hargreaves? Like a...
Well, have you seen the comic?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's so great, and I think really fun about getting to adapt material, especially from a graphic novel or comic, is that you can take these wild elements and then figure out, how to put them on screen and bring them to life as living, breathing characters. And this one, the graphic novel is so out there that it really gives you a lot of freedom, to play with when you're shaping the show.
Yeah, I will start mixing my questions with the audience questions, because I already have some, and they have like very similar questions here. So, sure. In a drama so serialized like the Umbrella Academy, where every episode is like a piece of a mosaic, like how a writer can leave its personal fingerprint without maculating the show's DNA. And then Marcos B asked, could Mark talk how free is he to create the scripts for the episodes in the Umbrella Academy? So what amount of liberty you have to be yourself as a unique writer in this whole plot?
I mean, the first thing is when you're staffing a TV show, and Steve, was staffing these shows, you want to create an inclusive environment where you have writers from a number of different backgrounds all working together who get the sensibility and the mission of the show, so that there's a collective idea and an understanding of what the comic is and what the tone is that we're all going for. But really hiring writers who all have a great voice and their own unique voice that can add to it. So that's how you get something bigger and better than yourself. Okay. And so I think Steve was really great about hiring people who every writer on the show brought something really interesting to the episodes. And you can see it when you watch the show. I think each writer did, while it does conform to what the tone of the show is, each writer is assigned an episode. So we know what episode we're going to write. And we have them try to sort of lead the breaking of that episode in the writer's room. So it's still under the guidance of Steve or me or whoever's in the room, but that writer gets to, pitch and say, here's how they see this scene, or this might be a really, something special we want a character to say. And that's how, they put their voice in. And I think you have to connect with the material if you're going to write it well. So you have to find something in your own life that you are relating to when you write these stories. And that show, because it was a lot about sibling rivalries and family dysfunction, all of us in the writer's room certainly had our share of dysfunctional family experiences to bring to the show.
And by the way, with so many characters like you have on Umbrella Academy, you must have your favorite ones, and at the same time you must have your least favorite ones. And you can say both if you want, or just say your favorite. But how do you find strength to write for that least character? The characters you don't like very much. How do you make them attractive for yourself and the audience when you have to write about them?
I have been on shows where some characters you're always struggling to find material for. That was not Umbrella Academy. Every character is so specific and so fun that like this season, I mean, Luther was a blast because he's working, in Dallas as this, he's like fighting, and he's got so much pathos this season, and he's working for somebody who, killed the man who killed Kennedy. And there was so many great scenes that we came up with for him. And, and we had an amazing run with Allison dealing with 1963. And I felt like there was a lot there to explore. Klaus is just fun because he's just such a, he's such a unique character and always great comic relief. And the fact that he's, had a cult that he didn't want to be a part of. I think that so much of it is when you start a season or a series, giving each character a premise and a goal and something to write for, then you'll never run out of, you're never going, oh no. The times when you struggle is if a character doesn't seem like they have a function, and you just haven't fully developed what their wants are and what their needs are. I mean, this is something Aaron Sorkin emphasized from day one that I never forget. And that, it goes back to Aristotle, and he used to tell us, read Aristotle, read, it's like what storytelling 101. Every character has a want and then there's something preventing them from getting that want. And as long as you have those two things, you have a scene, and you can create a story.
Yeah, really good.
And the bigger the obstacle, the better the story is.
Okay. I really hope to see on season 3 a little bit more about Ben. I feel I have an empathy with Ben, and maybe because he's dead. But I like his powers are quite cool also in the comics, like with all the tentacles, like very H.P. Lovecraft, his powers. Yeah. And can you explain a little bit how is the routine, how your everyday life on the writer's room, like the Umbrella Academy one, and adding to that, how is your daily life as a writer? How do you start your day, and how is your process?
Well, it's very interesting. Again, life is very well. There's post-COVID and pre-COVID. Right now, everything's Zoom room. So, like, I have a Zoom room going for a limited TV series I'm doing right now, and you know, once I at 1:31, I will log into that Zoom room and help break episode 5 that we're working on. And then we have 5 writers, and we are in a collaboration like this, and we'll sort of work through. And there's a software called Writers Room Pro that I use that allows you to card episodes, very similar to, like, this is my, you know,
nice.
For, you know, when I'm working here on a story, but there's software now that I can do that as well. So it's a little easier, and we can move it around. There's a writer's assistant who's writing those cards as we talk and shuffling the pieces, and each color represents a different character and storyline. So, you know, that's kind of how things go now. And I do the writer's room for this show. Typically we do 10 to noon, 1 to 3, and 4 to 6. But like, I have one writer is doing some revisions on the 3rd outline, so I'm only having them come in for the 1 to 3 session. And then they can be sort of fresh eyes on, you know, the work that we've done in the morning. Another writer is writing episode 4 outline, so he's only coming into the afternoon session. So it's kind of staggered, and as long as I have 3 people in the writer's room at any one time, and I can sort of, you know, it's a machine, and we're keeping that pipeline filled with each episode. So I have a schedule, and, you know, we try to keep to that. Prior to that, on the Umbrella Academy, for example, in season 2, you know, the writer's room met usually every day around 10. And same thing, we had these, you know, a room, the writer's room full of cards. One wall was all of the season ideas in episode in big picture. And then another wall was just a specific episode. And we would first divide it by character, and whoever was the lead writer on that episode would kind of lead the walk through that episode, and we all pitch in and guide them through that. And then when it's fully baked, we blend it, which is when you actually put them, you know, in the order on these cards that you think you're going to see in the episode, and then we go off to outline. So there's a lot of different steps, you know, that make each day different. And then once you're on outline or on script, then you're not really in the writer's room as much, unless you're an executive producer. Like I typically was in the writer's room even when I was writing a script, but most of the time you try to carve out, you know, so that people can have a little space to really think through the episode as well.
Okay.
One of the changes, though, that's happened with the streaming platforms, like Umbrella Academy, is the writer's room may go on for a period of time, and they're just writing the episodes, and then the staff is dispersed, and then the showrunner and maybe one other writer stay on for production, and that production might be 6 months later. So unfortunately, writers aren't getting the same level of experience that they did, like when I was coming up or working in broadcast, where you're getting to go on set and getting to really, you know, be a part of the production and post-production, just because of that lag. So that's something that I'm hoping we can figure out a way around, or keep people involved so that they get to as writers continue to learn and grow and be a part of producing their episodes, not just writing them.
Yeah, new challenges, and I never thought of that. I was even about to ask you what was the change between what does it change when you write to a streaming show or streaming company or for a cable or a network show, but I think you already answered that. Yeah, and then
the biggest. I mean, there's also, the interesting, like what was really fun going to the premium networks generally, or at least with Netflix, they're incredibly supportive and a little more hands-off. Like once we really spent a lot of time working with them on the big picture season arc. What's this season going to look like? What are the big character elements that we're going to focus on? And once we were all in agreement and excited about those, then it was very enthusiastic, and encouraging, in the writing and not a whole lot of, let's start over, let's tear it apart. They really, we were all kind of swimming in the same direction. And that's a really fun place to be when you're working with your studio and your network.
Okay. And Rafael Peixoto asks, what are the major differences between running a procedural show and a continuous plot show? Which one is more challenging?
They're all challenging. It's a different challenge, and some of it's just how your brain works. There are writers I know who just love coming up with clues, they're the guys who do crossword puzzles and jigsaw puzzles, and they love that. And in a procedural show, you're very much focused on how and a mystery. And so building that mystery, building suspense, and there are certain techniques that you can employ, as a writer to build suspense or to come up with a mystery. A lot of serialized shows are not as interested in, whodunit or hiding things and letting the audience sort of, like a CBS has a term they use called playing along, which means the audience is trying to solve the mystery or guess what's going to happen next in a show as you're writing it. And they want you to, as a writer, actively think about how the viewer's experiencing this and what they might guess is going to be next in the clue path or in the, which character may have committed the crime. And then you want to flip that on its head. They're also closed end, so every episode becomes a little bit like its own movie, and you don't necessarily have to pick up where you last left off in the next episode. So characters, one episode they can be grumpy, and in the next episode they're in a great mood, and you can build your entire story around whatever's happening in their life, and then forget it. In the next episode, they've got something new going on. They've got a new girlfriend or, whatever. In serialized, you're really, like the Umbrella Academy is a good example. It's a 10-hour movie. Every episode is really intricate and related to the one prior. It requires a lot more work in the writer's room in coordinating everybody's episodes together. Often, we'll come up with something in episode 6 and go, oh my gosh, you know what? We now have to set up in episode 3 this character so that makes sense. So we go back, put things in. We're constantly doing that. Sometimes we're even moving whole storylines from one episode to another because it just now, in looking at the entirety of the season, it makes sense to build something in episode 2 instead of episode 4. And so we really, you move a lot more things around in a serialized show. You look for ways of cliffhanging the episode. That's very important in Netflix and a lot of the streamers when they, like Netflix, typically drops all the episodes at once as opposed to on a broadcast network where it's weekly. It's really important that you have something that, drives the audience to come back. So you want to look for a way in that last 2 minutes of the episode that you are really focusing on, a major cliffhanger that people are like, oh, I gotta watch what's next.
Okay. And Jessica here, she almost time. We still have 10 minutes, 9 minutes, so I can you can get there on time. And Jessica here, I don't have her surname, so but Jessica, she wants tips. She wants tips for. Does Mark have any tips when it comes to screenwriting, learning resources like books, websites, and etc.? And then she wants tips for pitching TV shows for Netflix. And what are the major differences between pitching to streamings and networks in your experience?
So tips, I think you had a great one before. The master classes are fantastic. Sorkin has one. Shonda Rhimes also has one. There are some really great ones on the masterclass that I think are excellent primers from some of the best. So that I would highly recommend. I don't really know of any books right now that I've seen lately that I would recommend. You can check out the Writers Guild WGA.org, website in the U.S. My guess is they have some resources listed that are really good. And there are a number of programs that also are pretty good. Almost every one of the studios and networks now in the U.S. has a program for helping sort of young writers and aspiring writers to get into the system. So I would highly recommend, looking through those programs. So I think you can go to their websites and find them. Like Warner Brothers has one. I actually started I went through the Warner Brothers Writers Workshop as well as the Writers Guild, showrunning training program. And I thought those were just, great ways to both meet some new writers and learn how Warner Brothers has their process. And so that was, and meet some executives that then can help you with the pitching. Pitching is interesting right now, especially whether it's Netflix or anywhere. They kind of go in cycles. Some networks really like what's called a packaged show. So you're sort of walking in with a turnkey operation. When you come in, you say, here's my director, here's my star, here's the production company I'm going to work with, the budget's going to be X, and we're ready to go. And that makes it an easy yes or no decision for the network because there's no unknowns. They know exactly what you're trying to do. But that's obviously very hard to put those elements together because a lot of actors don't want to attach to something unless it's set up. So there's a little bit of a chicken and egg issue with that. But you find the right producers and it does take time, but you can package a show. And that's, I think, the way a lot of places are going. But the other way is that, you just have an incredibly strong concept. And you go into the network and pitch it, and you don't need anything attached. They just want to get a great idea with a great writer attached. And there are a lot more places that are just looking for that now because they're not as expensive as when people come in with this full package, and they typically don't have a production company attached, which right now, there's a lot of consolidation within the production, industry. And so it's sort of become stovepiped in that, Disney and ABC make for their outlets, and, Universal launched Peacock and NBC, and CBS has All Access, and CBS, and Warner Brothers has HBO Max, and everybody kind of likes to feed their studio to their platform, their distribution platform. And it's a little bit harder sometimes for them to sell outside of that. So sometimes if a writer can come in with no attachments, if the idea is killer and they have the credits to back it up, or a script, a sample, the more that you can come in with that shows your ability to execute, then, the better off you'll be. So, I highly recommend. It's very hard to sell a pitch if you don't have, credits. So then you may need to write the screenplay on spec. and if that's in great shape, then you'll get your show.
Okay, that's great advice. I think Jessica will be pleased. Last two questions, one from the audience, one is mine. Fast ones. One is João is really curious. He's asking what was the process behind adapting Limitless from film to television. Can you talk a little bit really fast about it?
Yeah, Limitless was a phenomenal movie, and I think there was a lot of excitement around the film, and so looking at how do you adapt this as a TV show had been around for a couple of years. My understanding was they actually tried it once and it didn't work, and you'll find this with a lot of shows. I mean, my wife is a producer and worked on a show called The Good Doctor, and they developed that once with CBS, and it didn't work the first time around, and then they redeveloped it for ABC with David Shore, and then you have now one of the biggest hits in the world.
Yeah.
So,
it's huge. It's huge.
Finding that right writer and the right network and the right timing, and these are all kind of things that just come together. And Craig Sweeney, came along, and they talked to him about Limitless as a TV series, and he had come off of Elementary, and that's actually where I knew him from, was the TV show Elementary, and had an idea for how to make it, using this new character, Jake, and and in the CBS mold, because Craig had worked on Elementary for a number of years, he understood how CBS shows like to work, and he actually wanted to make it a bit more serialized, and that was one of the things that was, I thought, really novel and interesting about that show, is that even though it was slightly more procedural, it was very character based and had a really fun, unique tone to almost every episode, and had some serialization. So those were all things that Craig really wanted in the show, and I thought did a great job with.
Okay, my last one. So we have still 4 minutes, and can we have a spoiler about your future projects? I heard there was this little bird told us that there was one involving a very sassy and naughty Brazilian. I don't know if you can talk about it.
Yeah, this is my first project about a Brazilian-born character. I'm really excited about it. I'm writing a limited TV series about Carlos Ghosn, and it's probably most famous for escaping Japan in a box. But he was the CEO of Nissan and Renault and head of this global car alliance, and just an amazing character. And I'm really excited about this show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. We have a great writing staff, and it's something. One of the things I've been doing a lot more lately is working on international productions, and I think it's part of what's been happening. Just as a global trend is even with Umbrella Academy is very popular in lots of places around the world, looking for material that appeals to not just an American audience but a global audience.
Yeah.
And so this show, we're hoping we'll be shooting in France, in Japan, possibly Brazil. So really has a global feel to it, and there are a lot more projects like that are coming up.
Yeah, do we have any idea when we should premiere and where?
Not yet. We are right now in the midst of writing the episodes, and the plan will be, to announce that once we have them set and we have our cast, then we'll probably announce where you'll be able to see it.
Okay, which platform
it's with NBC.
Okay.
And so we have not yet. We're still working on the distribution platform once we have it completed.
Okay, thank you. 1 minute to to the time. So we made it, and I survived. Thank you very much. Thank you very, 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 very much. The amazing, the awesome, the outstanding Mark Goffman. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. This was really fun. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I hope when next time I am in Los Angeles, we can meet and I can bring you some cachaça, so you can write about Carlos with the national drink in your hands, and it will be much more entertaining.
Oh, I can't wait.
Thank you very, very much, Mark.
Okay.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Voltei.